Let's do this thing. Hey, good morning, good morning. We'll welcome some more guys as they come in. I'm looking forward to today. Hey, today is week 6 of an 8-week session, which means how many more sessions do we have? 2. Thank you, John. I appreciate your feedback. Somebody asked me today if it was the last one. The answer to that is no. We will meet 2 more times. And with that in mind, as you all leave today, or maybe even as you came in, there's a little sheet of paper, that describes what we're going to be doing in the fall, God willing, and also the dates and on all of that. I also have a little summer reading list out there. We're going to give you guys some time around your tables the last week to maybe even talk about what the summer could look like for you guys as a table. Maybe you guys want to get together a few times. Maybe you want to read a book together. Maybe you want to go up to First Fruits Farm. I don't know, but you guys can decide how you want to stay connected. Over the years, we've done a number of different things to help facilitate that. But last year and again this year, we're going to leave it to you guys to figure that out because you guys can. That's what we figured out, that you guys actually can. And we don't know your summer schedule, so we're going to continue on with that. I'm really looking forward to what we're going to talk about today. Let me just remind you that this session came out of a question I asked our core team. And if you're new today, we're really glad that you're here and you can just jump right in, because even though this session kind of sticks together each week, it kind of lives on its own as well. But the question I asked them was, what would be some things that you would want to teach your children or grandkids or even the next generation that you felt if they learned, it would help them live a life that would be more well spent, more meaningful, and certainly that they'd have a capacity to flourish more as a human being. And we had a number of wonderful responses. Interestingly, there was a lot of congruence in some of the responses that we were given, and we have spent some time talking about the profound power of desire and relationships and dominion. We spent some time talking about the capacity to serve and give our lives away, and that our most valuable possession is what we're rooting our lives in terms of our relationship with the Lord, that there's nothing more valuable than that. We had a week on the power of friendship. And today we're going to take another look into another topic that I think is really significant. And I want to get at this by showing you guys a clip. It's from the movie Unbroken about a guy named Louis Zamperini. Some of you may or may not have heard of him. But Louis Zamperini was a World War II veteran and was shot down and picked up in the ocean by the Japanese army. And he and with a number of other U.S. soldiers were in a camp, captured. And at least in the movie, what they say, this is somewhat of a true story. There was one guy in particular that really had it in for him and wanted to break him. And eventually Louis obviously survived. He became an Olympian, a runner, and he also was a follower of Jesus. And so the movie Unbroken is a bit about his story, but there's this one scene that I want to show you and just have you take in, because it, in a powerful way, I think declares what we want to talk about today. All right? So let's just get into this and we'll enjoy this together. Okay? Wow. Nice something to wake up in the morning to, right? So let me ask, what did you guys see in that clip? If you were to think of a couple words maybe that would encapsulate what you just witnessed, how would you summarize it? What might those words be? Silence? No. Yeah, Edwin, Dave? Yeah. Okay, real light. You said determination?
Determination and forgiveness over self-pity.
Okay. Forgiveness of self-pity?
Over
self-pity. Okay, wow. Yeah. That's great. Dave?
Resilience at a deep level, physically and emotionally.
Yeah. There's a sense of just somehow staying in it, right? Anything else? That's what's that? Say, yeah, Al?
I saw Jesus on the cross.
You saw Jesus on the cross there. How so? He was just holding it up? Yeah. Yeah, the shadow. Wow, interesting. I haven't had anybody ever say that, but we're going to get to that later today. So there is some of that in there for sure. Yeah, Carrie?
Well, it's titled Unbroken
Yeah.
for a reason. If you read the book and all the history, you know behind it. But all the men that were watching him were so moved by his spirit
Yeah.
and his resilience, as was said. And it can't help but move you when you see somebody stand up so strong.
Would anybody have faulted him to have caved in? I mean, like all of the guys there are doing what did you hear? It's like, come on, Louis. Come on, Louis. It's like they're kind of living through Louis, right? Like his strength is their strength. His will is like, I want to be, come on, Louis. And you think of who really broke who? He broke that guy, right? Yeah. Patrick and then John.
I was just going to say that you can feel spirituality there. There's strong strength in God.
Yeah.
In what he's going through. And the people are sensing it around him.
You do get a sense in Louis' story that you'll realize that I think to get through a lot of things in life, there has to be a greater why. Like, why do I stay versus quit? Why do I hang in versus give up? Huge. John?
A couple things. First, I was reminded of...
Real loud, buddy.
First, I was reminded of something I learned a long, long time ago, and that is the unspeakable cruelty of the people we managed to find wars to fight with. The Japanese during that war were unspeakably inhumane and cruel, as were the Nazis. Now, we seem to be very good at finding enemies like that. The other thing was the Japanese soldier was humiliated.
Yeah, for sure.
Right in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And he was realizing it at the end,
But he was humiliated by somebody else's resilience that he couldn't break.
correct.
Yeah, which is really pretty profound. I would also say this. It's easy, when we look at other countries and nations and what they've done and how horrible they, have been at times, I just want to remind us in a humbling way, and John, you weren't not saying this, that even as Americans, we live here and we love this country. I don't want to live anywhere else. But, we don't get off that scale of having done bad things to people too. And I think it's easy to forget that at times. Even within our own nation, we've done that to one another. And that's pretty intense when you think about that too, right? The heart of man is across this world. And I think that the question is, how do we, in a spirit of resilience, endure and deal with things that we face that are horrific, like John is saying, and what does that really mean? Jim, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I know this is very dramatic in a
Sure.
very intense situation, but I think in everyday life, there's a lot of situations, I know that I'm more aware of it all the time, that you come across situations that seem extremely difficult. You can decide how you want to handle it.
Yes, you can.
And you can make it a better situation for yourself and as an example to others.
Yeah. So you're saying in life we all have difficult things to face, but we actually have a say in how we're going to deal with it. I want to pause here just for a minute because this is significant. The thing that I think is so profound in life that Jesus was not joking when he said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. In this world you will have trouble." A good friend of Dave and mine, Dave Campaigns and mine, Doug Holliday, started something called Path North years ago, but he also teaches a graduate level course at Georgetown. And it's interesting, he will often ask these graduate level, really sharp students at I think it's number 4 business school in the country. They're there to learn about business. He goes, "Hey, look, I'm not a numbers guy, but I just want to ask you, when was the day you saw the sparkle leave your dad's eye for living and meaning and getting up every day and leaning into his life?" And the room kind of goes quiet because people are starting to click in to realize, hey, my dad, I remember there was a time where it was just getting up, going to work, doing the thing, but it's like he quit. Part of him quit, like he gave up in some ways. And Doug would look at this class and he would literally say this every time, "I'm going to make sure if you stay in this class, that never happens to you. Because if you just lean into your title and making money and getting to a certain level in life, it will eat you up and you will forget why you even take up space on this planet." The illusion is if I get to a level, that does it. He goes, that level is not what it's about. And I'm just here to say, over my years, I have learned this, that, did Louis quit? I think times I've quit. I think it's fair to think we quit. I think I have talked to people who have quit in many different ways. They've quit dreaming. They've quit daring. We're just kind of living, banging out our days. Hold on just a second, John. And we're not leaning in to the realities that are before us. We've got a life. Mary Oliver made this great statement. She says, what are you going to do with this one wild and wonderful life that you've been given? I don't say this to be mean. I don't know everybody's situation, and I am not being judgmental. I'm really not. I'm just saying this. I believe at some level, even marriages, relationships with kids aren't better because we quit. We quit. Somebody quits. We quit. We quit growing. We quit facing our crap. We quit being willing to have hard conversations. Somebody quits. And an unwillingness to change. And listen, I know situations in this room, and I get it. Or one person doesn't quit, it seems like another one does. Or we're not willing to hang and just move through it. And you can't do it alone. I understand that. I'm just saying to you how much pain there is in this world because of these qualities that we can learn. I want to define these for you in a minute, but go ahead, John.
Well, before we get too far away from it, I want to point something out and see how it applies to what you're talking about. It wasn't just that particular incident where he had to lift that big piece of wood and hold it there for a long time. It was also everything that came before that the Japanese had done to him to weaken him before he got to the point
Yeah.
they tested him with that. Same thing applies to us. It isn't just the issue that we're facing at the moment that is so hard. It's everything that's gone before. And it either strengthened us or weakened us before we got to the point where we had to face that.
100%. And we're going to talk about that from a passage because in many ways our capacity, thank you, John, to show up in the moment where something like that, maybe there's a big moment in life to really be there, is based on everything we've done before. Like you prepare for it, knowingly or unknowingly. In essence, our life catches up with us, good or bad. Would you agree with that? You know, you're storing up stuff whether you even know it or not now for something that might be required way down here in life. If you guys have kids still at home, and I'm looking around the room, some of you do, like you're teaching some of your kids stuff right now that hopefully they're going to need down the road. They don't even know they're going to need it yet, but they're going to need it. Little things that we work on in our own journey, little habits every day with the Lord that eventually serve you down the road when things tee up because you don't know what's coming. I don't know what's coming. I don't know how hard it would be or is going to be. We get surprised every day by things, phone calls, unexpected things that go on in life that you don't plan it, but it shows up. It shows up. Mati?
Could you one more time say, what was the threshold question that Doug Holliday was asking?
Dave, help me with this. I'm wrong, but I think it's what was the day when you saw the gleam in your father's eye leave for just getting up and going after life every day? That he wasn't dreaming anymore. He wasn't leaning into friendships. He kind of lost just the enthusiasm for living and existing and the beauty of just life itself. And he kind of just got into a rut of just being, going through the motions. And he wasn't looking up. I think the head's always down and you're not looking up again. It was kind of that feel. Is that right, Dave? Yeah.
Well, and what was Holliday's admonition? What was he saying you should do?
Well, I think he was saying to these students, that's what's going to happen to you. Because you think that what you're going to end up doing in this class, you're going to learn to reach a certain level of success in business, and you're going to just get into the grind. And you're going to think life's about the grind. It's about getting to a certain level. It's about making a certain amount of resource. And you're going to miss what life is in the midst of it. And he's trying to say, I want to help make sure that doesn't happen to you as you keep climbing the ladder, because you're going to understand that the ladder isn't all that you think it is. Yeah. Yeah, Steve?
I think there's a subtle form of quitting
Yeah.
called settling.
Settling.
It's
So good.
bumped into too many hardships or been knocked down too many times, and then, well, this is as good as it's going to get to my marriage, or this, I would really love a relationship like that guy has with his kids, but mine's never going to be that. Or, you know, I love my work. I used to love my work, but now it's just a grind, and it can't be any different. And it sort of creeps in subtly. It's not, quitting seems, and I'm not saying we don't quit. I mean, I know I have. Quitting sort of is like a moment in time. Settling, it just creeps up on you, and before you know it, you've settled into patterns that you never would have accepted
Yeah.
if you had consciously made the decision.
Yeah, no, I could not agree with that more. I think even things can happen in our life, even like in a broken marriage, that, you know, people, to be able to believe it, wait a minute, you know, you go through grieving and loss. We did a whole series on this. I'm not minimizing any of that, please, please, please. But to eventually allow yourself to live again, to say there can be another season, that I can love again, and not get hardened by some of the things that have happened in our life. We do have a say. Jim?
So I was in a growth session last night, and the most interesting thing came out of this video clip is that, you know, for a lot of us retired, it's kind of a shock because you don't see these people that you worked with, spent your life with for decades. So the question they asked was, you know, as far as a healthy relationship as you get older, was, you know, at some point you probably need to replace your workmates with playmates. And not that you're playing all the time, but you need to establish new relationships over time.
Well, I would even say this. I say even as you get older, and I'm in that category. And I would say this, you know, I think it's easy to say, I've got to my stage of my life now where I worked my whole life to just kind of, no. I think in one sense, this is my best years, God willing, you stay healthy. I know the mistakes I made. I feel like I'm clear about what's most important to me than I ever have been in my life. I'm crystal clear about what I have to offer and what you never want to ask me to help you with because I don't know how to help it. And I'm more desiring to give my life away in these areas right now. Not just do it on myself, but how do I keep giving it away in these areas? And certainly you can have some more reserve and time, but I'm just saying this is really important. Viktor Frankl, I want to mention this again, and then I want to look at some passages of Scripture real quickly before we have some time around the table. If you've not read Man's Search for Meaning, it's a worthy read. And it's a small little book, so if you're intimidated by big books, this is a small one. You can handle this. And even if you read the first half, it's worth it. But this Jewish rabbi who wrote the preface to the newer edition, he said the whole book for him, the whole story for Frankl's summary was this. He goes, the last great human freedom is to determine your attitude or response to any given situation. Now, this is a man who wrote this, who lost his family in a German war camp. Lost everybody. And the only distinction that he could make as a psychologist between people who survived and lived well and those who survived but never recovered was that they took a proactive stance that even though I am a victim, I'm not going to allow myself to be victimized in terms of giving myself away. I have a say in what I'm allowing what's going on around me to do to me. And I am telling you, and you hear this all the time from people if you listen, their life isn't better because of something that somebody else did. I understand that we have to navigate tensions and other people's behavior does influence us, for sure. For sure. But when you take out of that, hey, I also get a vote in the party, and how I'm going to deal with it, what my attitude is going to be, what could I do, then you're really in a soup that's really hard to get out of. Is that fair? Does that make sense? Scott, you deal with this every day. You know what I mean? Like everybody's got a reason, right? We all got a reason. And I understand that. But at some level, this ability to think about what do I really want and what's my say in it is huge. Let me just define these words because I think they're important. We'll read a couple scriptures and then we'll go here. This word endurance, if you want to take a picture, this ability to continue, I love that, to last. When you think of your life, it's not a sprint, you guys. It's 30, 40, 50, 60 years. You would hope that as the race goes on, if you've trained, you get a little stronger, but you would lean into your life more. You'd have more exuberance, more of a will to give away more. If you've ever seen somebody that's aged well, and I don't mean just physically, but I mean in their spirit, in their heart, they're some of the most enjoyable people to be around. You just feel like, I need to be around that guy, that woman. Like they're huge in what they're learning, and they're growing, and they're living life with different eyes. That's kind of what we're saying it. This Latin word to make hard, it more deals like that you're dealing with the capacity of dealing with hard things. Biblical definition, you get it. We'll read some scriptures that'll make this a little bit clearer. This word resilience, I want to just get one phrase. It says the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly. This is it. The ability to spring back or adapt to things that are stressors. I think that's just fantastic. To rebound, to recoil, to jump back. We're going to learn today, again, that sometimes that capacity isn't within you right now, but sometimes I may need Sean to help me bounce back. This is why in Hebrews chapter 10, I think verse 24, it says, let us consider how we can spur one another on to love and good deeds. Spur one another on to love and good deeds, not forsaking our own assembling together is the habit of some, but encouraging one another all the more as we see the day draw near. Let me put this in a personal, I was running my first marathon I ever ran. I'll never forget this. It was a Marine Corps marathon. And they make you go around Haynes Point at about the 18-mile mark, 18 to 22 or something like that. It is the loneliest part of the race at the hardest part of the race. They have nobody out there except the 6th grade band they've stuck out there. And they've told these kids, you're going to get to play in that Marine Corps Marathon. And they're out there, and it's like, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. And I don't know, but around 19 and a half miles, I was done. I was like, oh my gosh. And this guy pulled up next to me. I'd never met the guy in my life. And all I knew was, I need that guy right now. I need that guy. And I reached out to him. I said, look, can you help? Can we stay together? Like, I need you. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to keep going at that point. It just hit me like a Mack truck. Some people call it the wall. I don't know what it was. But I also knew this. In 2 or 3 miles, I have a friend waiting for me. And if I can get there, I can make it, I think. And so this guy hung with me, helped me. And then I saw my friend. And when I got to him, he picked me up, not really picked me up, but picked me up running next to me and got me to where I could hear the finish line. Literally, I could hear the finish line. It was 2.5 miles away. I could drop him because he didn't like to run. He goes, I'm not good for him very much. I'll get you to, a couple miles. But I got to the finish line, and all on the way, it was just spurring along. I didn't have it in me at the time. But somebody else carried me to where I could pick it up again. Does this make sense? This happens relationally sometimes. Sometimes like, I need you right now. Yes. Until you can pick it up again. But quitting isn't the option. Giving in is not the option. Stopping isn't the option. Not growing anymore isn't the option. Settling isn't the option. Let's take a look at Romans chapter 5 real quick, guys. And then we're going to get some great time in the time around the tables. This is some beautiful scriptures. Just hear these words. This is Romans chapter 5, starting at verse 3. Paul says, and we rejoice in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but listen to these words. We also rejoice in our sufferings. How many people, just to think of that phrase, we rejoice in our sufferings. Because we know that our sufferings produces perseverance or endurance, resilience. These are all synonyms. And perseverance, character. You guys, you get more character? You people want to grow in character? Do some things that are hard. And then consider it a good thing that you get to go through hard things. my gosh. And character produces hope. And hope, which is a confident expectation of a preferable future, and hope does not disappoint because God has poured out His love into our hearts by the Holy Spirit whom He has given us. Golly, do you see how these things link up? Tension, perseverance, character, hope. Let's take a look at 2 Corinthians, just because we're close. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. I want to just read you a few things. We won't go into all of them, but Paul in this passage is boasting about his sufferings because some are wondering, are you really a true apostle? And Paul is kind of tongue-in-cheek showing that he really is the real deal, and one of the ways he does that is he talks about some of the things that he has endured. So in 2 Corinthians 11, right around verse 22, he says this, are they Hebrews, talking about others who have boasted about their pedigree? He says, are they Hebrews? Well, so am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they Abraham's descendants? So am I. Are they servants of Christ? I am out of my mind to talk like this. I'm even more. For I've worked much harder. I've been in prison more frequently. I've been flogged more severely. I've been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. Add that one up. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. How'd you like to see what Paul's body looked like? I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my own countrymen, in danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, in the country, and at sea, and in danger from false brothers. I've labored and toiled, and I've often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst, and I've often gone without food. I've been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I daily face the pressure, that's emotionally, of my concern for all the churches. Who is weak? And I do not feel weak. Who is led into sin, and I do not inwardly burn. If I boast, and I boast of all things that my weakness, to show that my weakness. And the God and Father of the Lord Jesus Christ, who is to be praised forever, knows that I am not lying. And he just goes on and on and on. But let me tell you this, why didn't Paul quit? We'll learn this more. Why didn't he quit? After 1 beating, 2 beatings, shipwreck. I'm glad he didn't quit. I'm just saying, why didn't he quit? Let's look at James chapter 1 real quickly. James says this, verse 2, chapter 1, consider it, you guys, this is so familiar, but hear this, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Like, how many of us would ever give somebody else that kind of counsel? Man, I'm going through a really hard time. Yeah, I'm not telling you have to pretend happiness, but watch, consider it joy when you encounter various trials. Like, goody, shut up. Why would I ever do that? Because you know that the testing of your faith, which it is, develops perseverance. And perseverance must finish its work so that you can be mature and complete, not lacking anything. I can say this, I don't think we mature very well if we don't learn to stand up under difficult, under hard, under loss, under confusion, under disappointment, under heartache. It's going to be really hard. So, here's what I thought we could do. Let's get around our tables. I'm just going to throw up a few questions. Again, don't feel limited to this. This is to sort of stir the pot a little bit. We're going to enjoy these for a little while. And then we're going to come back, and we're going to share around this, and then we're going to read Romans 12, 1-3. And we're going to see if we can't learn a few things that can help us build our, if you will, resilience muscles to learn to not settle and to continue to stay the course. Amen? All right, let's do this. Let's enjoy this time around the tables. You guys can share about around this and enjoy this time together. All right? Great, great, great. Here we go. The Orioles won, Steve.
1 in a row.
1 in a row, baby. Hey, if you have your Bibles, why don't you turn to Hebrews chapter 12. And we'll try to make some hay on this a little bit. Before we do, if anybody would like to, is there anything that maybe surfaced around your tables that you guys would like to share? I don't know that, but you guys, a lot of good stuff's going on around these tables, and I don't know if anything surfaced that you felt like, man, one of the things that was very helpful that we talked about was this, or we got some, I don't know, maybe some unity around was this, or anything that anybody would feel like compelled to want to share or not. It's okay, but yeah, thank you, Gregory, and then we'll go to Brian. Yeah, thanks.
As a middle school teacher, I think I deal with this like daily. And parents, and it's just fascinating because resilience gets you so much further.
Yeah.
In learning, in education, or in a job or life. Yet the wanting to learn, like you have to learn how to be resilient, right? You gotta
Yes.
practice it, it's a skill, and they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They just want the easy out.
Yes.
Easy thing, the easy whatever. And it's sad that I preach a lot in my classroom about your attitude is the thing that's going to make you or break you.
Yes.
And your attitude of, okay, like I don't use the word resilient with them as much as problem solving, critical thinking, like it's not going to be easy, we fail and all that. So I see this every day, all the time.
Yeah, it's so great. Like when somebody says, well, but it's hard. Yeah. But it's confusing. Yeah. I was on a men's weekend down in Roanoke this past weekend with a bunch of guys through an old friend speaking, and I was in after each session we had a group, so I was in a group with some guys, and the guy next to me had just been married for 2 years. And at 2 years, and he goes, man, we're struggling with some stuff a little bit. And I felt like saying, so you thought you were going to get married and you weren't going to struggle. Is that what you're saying? Like, he goes, yeah, this is like, I got married. Like, I thought, like, yeah, the name of the game is a relationship of struggle a little bit. Like, you think 2 lives independently together, you're not going to have some stuff to deal with. It's a little bit, if you don't learn what you're saying, Greg, crazy. Brian?
So we talked about actually your non-negotiables and figuring out what they are. You can't really figure it out until the wave already washed over.
Yeah.
And what remains are your true non-negotiables. And, like we talked about establishing them, defining them, just kind of figuring out where you are in life for your non-negotiables.
Yeah, that's great.
For me, what stands out to me most is where I should have stood up more in my life for non-negotiables and didn't when I looked through my life. So the other decisions are just decisions, but bad decisions that shape you in a bad way, they stand out more morally to you as you get older because you actually allowed yourself to be steered in the wrong direction instead of standing up for your non-negotiables.
Boy, that's beautiful. I think part of what you're saying, as we'll see here, is what are those non-negotiables, maybe being a big enough why? Like, what is the big enough why? And I would encourage you, maybe you've never done this, but I would encourage you to write it down. That maybe you'd even have a little piece of a page in your journal where you have written down, what are those kinds of things that I want to have mark my life? What are those things that, God, that you have proven to me that will carry me through? This is huge, huge. Anybody else? Yeah, Patrick?
We talk a little bit about all these things are foundational.
Yes.
And you draw upon all the, like James talks about, welcoming the challenges in life, because they can either chip away at the foundation or they can build that foundation up more, build it up stronger. And
Yes.
each situation is going to provide that resilience if your foundation is there. And also we talked a little bit about that you don't have enough strength on your own.
You don't.
You can't do it.
You don't. You can't.
You have to rely on God, and that's where your strength is going to really come through in that situation when tough times hit.
Yeah. You guys are so good. We're going to see this in the scriptures. Josh, thank you, Pat.
So to follow what Pat was talking about, at our table, we kind of talked a lot about the resilience when you build the right community.
When you
Build
don't.
the right community, because everybody wants the end result, but we don't know what it looks like or what it looks like to get through.
Yeah.
the hard.
Yeah.
And so I told a little bit of my story last weekend, and I got to the hospital, get surgery, and all this other stuff, and the community came around my family in the hard, so that the resilience was the intentional time with the community, because you can't do it alone.
You can't.
You can't, like, we're not made to do it alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys at the table talked about, like, his hardest days are when he's alone.
So this is the tension, right? So we live in a country often in a place where men, even as men, try, I gotta be strong, like get it up. You know, I think part of the thing that let Louis do the thing he did, you see the men rooting for him, and he knew it. There is a sense that the strength of the community gets you through. It isn't being this independent, rugged warrior. It's a sense that, man, I need, like the vulnerability helps us to get through. So we'll look at this. Let's look at Hebrews chapter 12 for just a few minutes. And I want you to know Hebrews chapter 12 comes after Hebrews chapter 11. See, you guys are awake and so smart. I love that. And chapter 11 beautifully marks all these different individuals who tarried through some really hard stuff. We don't have time to go into it right now, but at the very end of chapter 11, it talks about people who received back their dead and quenched the fires, and yet others who were tortured and sawn in two. And the interesting statement at the end of this that I just think is pretty profound, it says this, is that it says some wandered in deserts and mountains and in caves. This is the end of chapter 11. Holes in the ground. Get this. They were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. God had planned something better for us so that only together with us would they be made perfect. It's like these dear brothers and sisters, they were here and they were looking towards something here that they never got yet. But somehow the certainty that they were going to get it allowed them to be faithful and go through some really hard stuff where they were. And it says the world wasn't even worthy of this kind of a person. But they had eyes for something that was going to be, and it gave them the capacity to go through. And then we see these beautiful words because of these saints who have gone before us. Chapter 12 starts this way. Therefore, whenever you see therefore, it always is referring to something that comes before the therefore. It's like I'm saying this, therefore, because I said that, I'm going to tell you this. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance or endurance, you could say resilience, the race that is marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. Chapter 12 of Hebrews, very beginning. Hebrews chapter 12, 1-3. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, again, who for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So consider him, again, who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. What do you hear in this passage?
What I saw in the movie.
Yeah, say a little bit more about that here. I mean, in terms of some things that might help us build our resilience muscle, if you will.
When you looked at him in the movie, and what it said to me was his eyes are focused on something I don't see, but he sees it clearly, and he's holding that log over.
Yeah. This is interesting to fix. I would say that one of the things that you get a number of things, and this isn't in any order necessarily, but I did that too. I kind of also felt like there was an encouragement that he got from looking around. He wasn't alone in that yard. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, there's a sense that it's one of the things that's kept me going. I've looked at other people who also kept going. I've looked at some other people who didn't settle, Steve, that you were talking about. You know, Will and Josh talked about the fact that your life in many ways will take on the characteristics of your 5 best friends. And I'm telling you, there are guys who have carried me through. What they have endured and when they've showed up in my life has helped me go through. I'll give you a quick little story. This same weekend that I was just on, Saturday evening, I asked guys, hey, has anybody learned anything they wanted to share this weekend? And I spent a couple of sessions talking about the heart, that we've, different things that shape us, that kind of thing. This one young guy in the back of the room raises his hand. He goes, hey, I just want to share that I had 2 conversations, they've changed my life. I'm like, what? I go, that's a big statement. He goes, yep, it is, and they have. Today. I went, today? He goes, yeah, today. And I go, well, so after the meeting, he goes, Goody, can I talk to you for a little bit? I go, well, sure. And I happen to know this guy since he was a real little dude. He happened to just be on this weekend. He goes, I got married 13 years ago, but 16 years ago, 3 years before I got married, I went through a pretty hard time with my now father-in-law. And I realized through some of the stuff you were talking about, we've been talking about, I went on my run today, 15-mile run, short little jog. He goes out, he's an ultra marathoner. He goes out for this 15-mile little jog, and he goes, in the middle of it, I realized I need to call that guy. I go, what? He goes, yep. So I called him when I got back, and I said, hey, I need to talk to you about some stuff that I've been holding on to for a while. And he goes, no, it's okay. He goes, no, I need you to listen to what I need to share with you. And he goes, I literally told him stuff I've been holding on to for 16 years that I felt about him. And I asked him to forgive me. And then I forgave him. And he goes, and then my father-in-law sobbed on the phone. He sobbed on the phone. He goes, Goody, after that call, I felt like somebody gave me my life back again. He goes, I couldn't believe how much I've been holding on to, and it sucked me dry. I kind of quit. I gave up on that relationship. I thought, that's dead. He goes, then I had to call a business guy a year and a half ago, literally screwed me. And I felt like if we never talked again, it was good enough for me. And he goes, and then I realized on my run, as a follower of Jesus, I just can't have that attitude. That's not an option for me. So, as much as it's up to me, I can only do what I can do. But I wasn't free. I wanted to be free. So I made a phone call. He goes, he didn't pick up, but I left a message. I want to call him this week. I want to catch up with him, see if anything happened. But he goes, I feel so free because I felt I did the right thing because I had quit on that too. And now I feel like my life's back. Does this make sense? Because see, here's the thing. The second thing, fix our eyes on Jesus. Fix our eyes on who? Jesus. And I think when we do that, that is huge in what helps us get through. And I think the Lord gave him that and gave him the capacity, which you guys are saying, to get after it. Bill, you said something that was so profound about your wife, Doris. Could you share that your goal right now? Is it okay if I ask you to share that real quickly?
Yes, she's late stage Alzheimer's.
Can you do it loudly so that some of these guys can hear you? You can even stand up. It'd be great.
My wife of 60 years coming a couple of weeks is late stage Alzheimer's. And I just finally ran out of gas taking care of her and moved her into the memory care unit, which has been very, very good for her. It was a struggle taking care of her, but I really, and she doesn't know who I am. The bottom line is, my goal became, how do I make her life as happy and meaningful to her as I can, when she can't even understand anything I'm saying. She can't put a sentence together. So I have to sense from our long association. Like I said, 60-some years of experience, I have to sense that, and that's become my goal. That's what drives me forward, to try to focus all the time on
what little things I can do to make her life meaningful.
60 years? Yeah. This is so great. So, Bill, thank you. I know I put you on the spot. But 60 years of marriage, wife has Alzheimer's, doesn't know the man that she spent her life with, and his goal every day, leaning in, is how can I make her life better while she's still here? That's resilience. That's character. You don't just show up like that. Like, Bill, whether you know or not, you've done some things along the way. There's a fixing our eyes on Jesus. You know, it's this traveling light that's so profound. And I think now, you know, like there's a lot of things you had in your life, but right now it's like it gets pretty simple, doesn't it?
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple, but pretty profound. Steve?
So, Bill, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I've known Bill for a while, and I've known about his situation for a while, and I've worked with him, and I can tell you that the vast majority of people I've encountered in similar situations would have taken a different route a long time ago. And Bill has always put the interests of his wife first. He has always made that sacrifice. It is so humbling to just hear him talk about his sweet bride, knowing everything that he has been enduring. And I know this hasn't been an easy decision for you, Bill. And at the same time, I'll remind you something I told you a while ago. Your wife needs a husband in addition to good care. And now you can lean into being that husband that she still needs, while other people give her the care that she needs. And I'm just really proud of you, and I'll be praying for you. I love you, man.
Amen.
You're a hero.
Amen.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. So let me say this, because of time. I think we've got a few things. This is so beautiful in this passage of how do we continue to be people that can take on some of the things in life that are really, really difficult. And I think one, we've got to walk in a sense of community, taking advantage of that. I don't know anybody that goes through hard things well by themselves very well. It's hard, and we don't need to. That's why we're around these tables. That's why churches have, quote, small groups, grow groups. That's why loneliness is so profoundly detrimental to human beings. They even say it's worse than alcoholism in some cases. Being alone, just trying to get through. I think the other thing is that helps us is just, you know, we just can get bogged down with so many things that it distorts what's most important. I think that's like, let's throw off everything that hinders. I mean, let's just try to keep this thing as lean as we can. The third thing is, this is the one focusing on Jesus. So I just want to read these statements. It says this: let us fix our eyes on Jesus, but here's why. Who for the joy set before him, what did he do? Endured the cross. What was the joy set before him? What was the joy? Us. Us doing what? Who for the joy set before him endured the cross, shunning its shame, sitting down at the right hand of God. That it was almost like Jesus. I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie The Shack, but if you haven't, but there's one movie where this guy goes into this cave and he's with, you have to see it, but the Holy Spirit's a person in this. And there's this dramatization, and basically his daughter was basically taken from him, just horribly abused and killed. And the Spirit takes him into this cave, and there's this waterfall, and through the waterfall, he sees Jesus with all these children. I watched this scene, I just started sobbing. And the Lord is just playing with all these kids. And it's like God gave him a vision that you went through this horrific thing, this loss, but look, it's okay. This thing is good. It's good. I almost feel like Jesus endured the cross. He saw through the cross to this room today with men who he loved, who he's touched or is touching, to bring life and hope and a different perspective of life. It was worth going through for that. In fact, in John's Gospel, the 12th chapter, real quickly, Jesus says this: now my heart is troubled, because he's looking at the cross. My heart's troubled. What shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? Should I not go through with it? Should I quit? No. It was for this very reason that I came into the world. It is for this very reason that I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven. I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. You know, part of the Jesus is, we are Jesus' bigger why. You know why he endured? Because of us. Because of humanity. Because that one day, it's going to be the way it should be. And then he says this, now you consider him who endured from sinners such opposition against himself so that you won't grow weary and you won't lose heart. You know, it's the enduring heart of Jesus, I think, that just gives me the capacity to go through and to stay in the game. Bill, I would dare say that it is your faith and love for Jesus, am I right or wrong, that's giving you the capacity to love Doris as well? Absolutely.
I'm not capable of doing
You're not capable. Alonzo, you went through some hard stuff. Did the Lord carry you?
Yes.
I could go around the room. I mean, literally. See, you said the same thing. You went through a hard time, lost a job, and yet it was the thing, the Lord, got you through and taught you things you wouldn't have probably known any other way. We can go from man to man to man to man, person to person to person. Here's what I want to say. I don't know where you're at this morning, but I do want to say this. I want to encourage you not to settle and not to let the joy of being able to dream dreams get sucked out of you. You're here. You're still alive. Do you know that? Like you and I have today. We get an opportunity today to live this day, to sink our teeth into this day, to be kind today, to be a better friend today, to lean into my marriage in a different way today, to care for a kid a different way today, to look at a coworker maybe a little different today. Today's the day. Every morning, almost, I text a guy and he texts me back this phrase. You ready? It's a phrase from Mark Batterson, but here it is. Every day. This guy struggled with alcohol. He's doing great now. We do this, done this every day almost for a year and a half. You ready for it? Win this day. Win this day. That's another way to say it. Why? Because Jesus, who for the joy set before him, endured the cross, shunning its shame, sitting down at the right hand of the Father. You're not alone. You're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses that are before you and they're here. Win this day. How about it? You guys in? This is our day. This is our day. And this isn't about beating somebody else to the finish line. It's about winning this day for me. I know this. I think if we knew if this day was our last day, we'd probably live it a little differently. And none of us know that, and I'm not trying to create hype. I'm just saying, like those of you who got young kids, this is your day to love your kids. Put your arm around them. Look them in the face. Tell them something. Amen. Next week, we're going to have another week. We're going to talk about the profound power of humility. And maybe it's not what you think it is. So we're going to get after that. Sound good? Good. Okay, before we do our verse, I'm told Joe would be here today, but Joe got so sick last night. I think he had the pukes. He drove himself to the hospital to get some help. I think he's doing better now. But so I'm told that we need to leave 5 tables up. So Mati, your table, and we'll do these 2. Ken, Dave, Stephen, and then Lonzo and Jerry. We'll leave your tables up. There's a meeting in here. Guys, if we could all help, though, those of you whose tables are left up, you can still help break the rest of them down, all right? So let's go get this day. It's a good day. And let's do our verse. This is important. You guys are going to memorize this ding-dang thing if it's the last thing we do. You ready? Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding. For she is more profitable than silver, and yields a better return than gold. She is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her.